Mage, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Executive Director of Life Force Arts Center. And since January 20th, we have been so privileged to have this wonderful art exhibit, which is really inspired by Sue Baugh's book. Where's your book?
Right there.
Oh, right there. There you go.
I want a copy of.
It's still on the boat.
It's still on the boat coming over here. Yeah.
Slow boat.
A slow boat.
It'll be on the truck.
Exactly. And also this exhibit features the work of John Henderson and Steve Adams. And so the conversations on spiritual art that we're having tonight is a dialogue based on a lot of questions that I had prepared for artists. This is about the fifth conversation on spiritual art that we've had. We've had, as we were saying, the conversations emeriti are like Sharpa Glad and Sharon Bechtold, Amy Christensen, Kenny Klein. Who else? You were supposed to, and then
Me, but
no.
we moved and it got canceled.
And
Andrew Harvey.
Andrew Harvey and Ruby Sarah Wynn. That was a knockout conversation on spiritual art. They were a lot of fun. And so the purpose of these is to, and I will just read it right from my notes here, for these spiritual artists to contemplate and share their own approach to the spiritual in art, to learn about fellow spiritual artists' work through lively dialogue, and to enlighten audiences about spiritual art through in-depth discussion. And here at Life Force Arts Center, we are a center for artistically excellent, spiritually based, visual, literary, and performing art. So that's our mission, is to present that. And so we present all the different arts, not just visual art. And we define spiritual art as art that flows from spiritual practice, art that strives to connect the audience with spirit, and art that creates spiritual awakening, healing, or evolution. And so that can be a lot of different things to different people, and that's the purpose of these conversations, is to find out all kinds of different ways that those things can be for different artists. So I would like to go ahead and start. Whoever wants to can start with kind of these first basic biographical questions, and that is, let's find those right on here, a little cheat sheet. So who would like to, which one of you would like to start with some of these?
Why don't we have John go?
Go, yeah, okay. Very good, very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will speak right up first.
You are nominated.
He who speaks first speaks last.
And I read the first question is, how do you define art? And to me, art is what makes us humans. Because art is so subjective, you can't really define art, in my opinion. What I look at as art, you may not. What you look at as art, I may not. I mean, I've spent some time in the Chicago Institute, and there's some things hanging on the walls in there, taking up valuable space that I have trouble. And that's not knocking anybody, that's just my opinion. You're entitled to your opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion. I can look at something and see artistic form, artistic ability, I mean artistic expression, but you might not see the same thing. So how do you define art? I don't believe you can define art, because art is strictly in the eye of the beholder. I see something, I love it, you look at it and say, what are you looking at?
So what is the essence of what you are looking at that you would say is art?
Form,
okay,
composition, and that can be written or visual, expressed, sound expressed,
nature.
Yeah. Oh, I see a lot of art in nature. I do a lot of abstract art, and to me, abstract is it ain't nothing, you know, but it is something. But what is it? You know, what is it? I don't know what it is. It's just something that came to me.
It's formless.
Yeah,
It's formless and it's,
I do a lot of that
like you said,
with wood. And to me, it's taking a pretty piece of wood and making a form out of it. You know, art, I mean, abstract art to me is not interesting. It would, if it's done in plain wood. I mean, there's all kind of wood that you can use. That's why I use a lot of what people call exotic woods. Most wood carvers use basswood. Basswood has nothing to it. It's just plain white wood. Has no dimension to it. But most wood carvers paint their stuff. I don't paint mine. I should say I don't. Very rarely do I paint anything. And if it's something that I plan on painting, then I'll use basswood because it takes paint well. But if I want it to be natural wood where you can see the wood. To me, the wood is what's got the beauty to it. You know, I do something with it. I could take a board and polish it, and it would be pretty if it's pretty wood. You don't have to carve it. Just polish a piece of wood. It's pretty all by itself. That's what I see as art there. And then I do form. I do stylized form. And I tell people that I replicate ancient art. I see a lot of, to me, art in the ancients. I love Egyptian art, which I know some of us do. I love ancient Celtic art, ancient Egyptian art, Greek art, and African, island. I can see it in a lot of Northwest Native American, or Native American art, period. I've done a lot of Northwest Native American work. And to me, it's spiritual art. If you look at ancient art, especially, anything before the age of Christianity, almost all art had spiritual meaning, reasoning. And it was done because of spirituality. It was religion. The Celtic goddesses were real religion. All these figures you see in the Egyptian art is religious. Every member of the Egyptian gods and goddesses, it's all religion, and that's what their art was representing. And that's why I like working with that. And if you're looking at spirituality in the art, I mean, all art started with spirituality, with spiritualism, religion. Now, I'm not that much of a religious person. I don't say your religion is right, mine's wrong, or mine's right and yours is wrong. I don't care what religion you are. That's up to you. So you can look into your own artwork with your own amount of whatever spirituality you look at it with. I don't try to put any spiritual innuendo to my work. You can look at it. I would love for somebody to walk up to a piece of art and say, ooh, there's spirit there, and it calls to me.
I did, and I bought it.
Thank you so much.
The beautiful bear pipe that you made of soapstone did exactly that.
Yeah.
You want to tell the story about the fertility goddess?
Oh.
Yeah.
I've done several fertility goddesses, but I do one. In fact, the stone one over there is basically the same as the wooden one that I did. And this wooden one, though, I was still on the fire department when I was working on it. I was sitting on the apparatus floor one evening, sitting there whittling, and this woman, well, girl that had grown up with my daughter, I've known her since she was, a little kid, came into the firehouse with a girlfriend and one of her kids, and they were just looking. I showed them around, and the first thing they said, "Oh, what you carving?" I said, "This is a fertility goddess." I said, "Don't rub the belly unless you mean it." And the girl, the other one, who I didn't know, says, "Really?" She said, "Let me have it." So her and her husband had been literally trying for 3 years to have a baby. And so she rubbed the belly. I said, "Well, you got to do it with intent." So she rubbed the belly. I didn't see her again. Oh goodness, I saw the one that had been my daughter's friend. A year later, she comes running up to me. She said, "Oh, guess what? Oh, guess what?" And I said, "What?" She said, "So-and-so, I don't remember her name, had a baby 3 months ago." 2 weeks from the day that she rubbed the belly, she found out she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
That was the first one. That was the first one with the same little guys. And I was at the county fair that year after I'd finished their sculpture. And this young married couple, they were newlyweds. They were talking to me, looking at my stuff, and they asked about that piece. I said, "Oh, it's a fertility guy. She rubs the belly and you get pregnant." She said, "Really?" She rubs the belly. The next year at the county fair, he comes running up to me, and she's waddling up to me. "Hey, it worked!" I mean, she was ready to drop. And then the third one, oh goodness, which one was that now? There was 3 women who rubbed the belly, and ended up getting pregnant. And then the woman who bought it, the young woman who bought it, her and her husband had been trying. I had the goddess and a contemplate, which is also a fertility guide. She bought both of them because they were having trouble. And I told her, I said, really, I'd rather just rent her to you. And then somebody accused me of being a pimp. So, so I couldn't do it that way.
Pimping out the goddess, very bad karma.
You need to be careful touching your work.
Well, I always tell the women when you look at stuff like that, I said, don't rub the belly unless you mean it.
So, okay, let's see. How does your art relate to spiritual practice, and is there a spiritual practice or belief that influences your art?
Well, I basically covered that.
Okay.
The spirit is in, I hope you derive spiritual vibrations or whatever from a piece of my art.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it just comes. I've had guys in my woodcarvers club that, there's some really fantastic carvers that have no artistic imagination whatsoever. They say they tell me I can't draw a stick figure. I says, you don't have to draw a stick figure. I draw stick figures occasionally just to get the motion down and then fill it in, But when I do my abstracts, I just did a few carvings of this last week. I started out drawing an abstract, and all of a sudden a face popped out at me. And I'm really happy with what turned out of it. But maybe that's spirituality. I don't know. It just happens with me.
It's called shamanism.
I don't know where it comes from. It's not like an in-depth thought process.
Well, art is really intuitive, and that sounds like what you're describing. Following your intuition in looking at the piece and then doing whatever the work is that turns out of it.
Yeah, I do sketches. I doodle, and I have always got a sketch pad handy. I've actually dreamt sketches. Drawings or carvings, sculpture. I've dreamt it. I waken in the morning and sketch it real fast. Rough sketch. That's not a finished sketch. That's just the rough idea. Then go back and work on it and say, well, okay, there's where it's going. I draw with a pencil in one hand and an eraser in the other. Because I do this line, oh, not right. There it is. And I can't explain it. I can't describe it. I don't know how I do it. People say you can't do it that easily. Don't seem hard to me.
The dreams, it could be your subconscious too.
Yeah.
Coming out from the dreams.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why don't we?
Some other conversation here besides me.
It's stimulating so much I'm going to explode.
Go ahead, explode. Okay, so same
All right.
questions for
Well, what I did was, of course, go to the internet. What is art? And it was very gratifying to say, well, it used to mean this. It used to mean the architecture, painting, sculpting, music, and poetry was added in. And now it's up for grabs. No one really knows what art is because it used to be what women did was considered craft. And now needlework, quilting, all this is considered art. It's an art form. So they said, yeah, it's really, we've almost destroyed the concept of art as a separate kind of discipline or aesthetic because it's now so much integrated with what people do. So the fact it's an expression of something within that takes a form is about as close as I can get to what is art. They said, well, does it require craft? Well, yes and no. Like you're saying, you can't draw, but somehow through your hands you develop this shape and this form, and it's beautiful. To me, it's more like the function of art is to make you stop. And beauty does this. Beauty stops you in your tracks. and you feel this kind of expansion inside, and you're there in the present moment. Whatever is engaging you, whether it's a photograph or a soapstone or whatever, suddenly at that moment, you're out of your future, past orientation, and you're there with it. When you have something ugly, there's a feeling of contraction. Now, art can also be ugly for a statement. It can show something ugly. But if it has that quality of being true, it will have this resonance inside. You say, yes, this is important. I need to look at this. I need to see this, even though it's painful or it might be ugly to look at. The beauty part and the orderliness of nature, I think is what's striking me, because I have the same experience when I'm doing visual art, that it's almost as if I'm feeling and seeing with my hands.
Can you say a little bit about your background of what you work with?
Well, I started out both writing and visual arts. It was sort of a toss-up which one I would go with, or music, or athletics. So it's like,
Okay, let's do
yeah.
one thing.
The true artist.
Should I be a
What's left?
Should I be a sprinter? Should I be an artist? Should I follow the flute and whatever? Should I write? And eventually I focused on writing, but I always, until about 30 years ago, kept visual art alive. And I took art classes, and this is where I learned the aesthetic of art. Form follows function. Okay, that was drilled into our brains. Form follows function. So it was based mainly on some architectural concepts that whatever structures you build, they follow the function of what you need to live. You need light, you need air, you need circulation, you need water, you need warmth, you need shelter, this sort of thing. And the concept was that it was form following function would create this beautiful structure. Well, somewhere along the line that kind of lost touch with it, and we had projects, and we had these concrete boxes, and we lost that sense of beauty. But that was what we kind of got drummed into our heads. And then it began to, when I concentrated on poetry, I began to notice that I would rewrite the poems 60, 80 times, trying to find that line, that same thing, that line that was true. And when I would find it, I was often the last to know.
That's the eraser one and your pencil in the other.
Yeah. And so I would read this, it was true, it felt this is the shape of this, the rhythm of this. But then I would read it and it would have this impact and I would have no clue why. And then I would read things that I think, oh, they're gonna love this is so powerful, and nobody would respond. So I began to see there is a shape to our subconscious. It's not chaotic. It is not random, that there is a shape to it. And even in abstract art, there's a shape and orderliness. Like you look at Jackson Pollock's paintings, and it looks like random splashes of paint. But when there is a subconscious order, it's pleasing. It looks, you want to look at it, you want to be with it. When that order isn't there, it's disturbing. And I think that's the case with music or with anything. If that piece speaks to you and you have that order, even though it's discordant or it's there's this asynchronous quality to it, if it resonates with that structure inside you, some of that will speak to you. If it doesn't, it's disturbing. That's the only way I can express it. So to me, art, the function of it as I'm seeing, is to capture some of that innate form, express it as it comes through you. You add your own quality to it. And it's very often unconscious. It's not something you'll consciously do, but you know it when you've got it. It's like, yes, this is it. And then you hopefully stop. You don't fix it until it's ruined.
Artists have been known to keep tinkering with it until you totally mess it up.
Knowing when to stop.
And hopefully, it's like you're never done, you just stop. But hopefully you have some genius inside you, or daemon inside you, that will tell you that. Because I can remember doing a painting and picking up, say, a little more twigs here on the tree, and there was this very clear message, stop. And so I put the brush down, you're done. And I said, well, no, I'm not. There's something, no,
You're done. Stop.
Okay. Always those paintings would sell, without exception. They would sell, giving me enough money to buy more paint. About it. But the stone project added another dimension to that. That conversation between you and the piece, where I think real art comes from. It's a conversation between what you're engaging and something inside you. Because when we went to the sites, the sites helped us take the pictures. It was not, we shaped our little frames and we put it in our, and we stood it. Very often they would say, no, 2 feet over and 1 foot here. Now take pictures. So it was a very, very articulate conversation between us and the pieces. And then we began to notice that the patterns, although they're created by these massive forces that move the entire continents, there is an innate beauty that results. And I don't know why that's the case. Why what is in nature ends up being beautiful and harmonious.
Because you're an artist.
Most of the time. But even the underlying structures of things, the DNA, double helix, it's not only elegantly compact, it's also beautiful. So it's like it's innate inside us. The very structure of existence has this work and this harmony and this beauty to it. And I think we are just over this method of expressing that. I mean, I brought this book here, it's called Invisible Worlds, and it's taking a look at these macro, tiny little structures of life. And they're astonishing. Look at this. I mean, this is structure of tissue under polarized light. So we're adding polarized light, but the structure is already there. And I found that no matter what we do as artists, nature's already done it.
You could hardly come up with that on a painting. I mean, that's almost beyond capability with paintbrush.
Right. And here's the iris of the eye in different people. Every single one of it is different, and yet there's an order to the structure that enables us to see black and white color. And yet, it's beautiful. So, this is what's striking me. This author within the stone took close-up pictures of stone.
Nice.
And this is agate.
Yeah.
Crystalline geodes.
So this is very, very close up to what's here. So no matter how deeply you go into a structure in nature, you will find this orderly beauty that underlies the existence of all life, all structure in the universe. No matter how large you go or how small you go, there it is. So to me, it's inevitable that we have that inside us.
Fractals.
Always. Yeah. And also a lot more. So other dimensions, when you go to another dimension, and I imagine some of you here have already done this, the colors are alive. They're not alive in the sense, oh, they're bright and pretty. They're alive in the sense of sentient, conscious beings. And you can converse with them. So I think that reflection of this in the physical is what we're having a conversation with. I don't know. I think that. So anyway,
That's your opinion. And we all appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, what is art? Art is the expression of all things, past, present, and future. And it is beauty. And to me, art, nature is the first creator of art. Because that is the beauty that I see in everything. That's what inspires me to create what I create, is nature. Not human beings creating art, but nature is the art, to me. I try to copy it, and I try to teach people things with it, but it's not the true beauty of it. To me, it's nature is the true beauty of all things, and what it is, the expression of art, and what it is. So that is something that I try to teach in what I do. You know, I try to bring that out and to teach people that, you know, I think like a lot of humans and animals think that we're just so much more and more important than a rock or a plant. And we're not, because we need them to sustain life. The plant draws out the minerals and we eat it, and we need each other, and we have to respect each other. And I think as an artist, it's my responsibility to try to teach people that respect, and to go back there to that point and teach people that. And what Sue has inspired me a lot too, by, you know, going around the world and taking photographs of the oldest living rock on the planet. I mean, this is beautiful, but I mean, it's something that really shows you the respect that, you know, that you gave it is something that's so important that we could see, you know, back when different cultures like Egypt and Celtic and all these things that we're all connected with, by the way,
Yeah.
is always seems like back then they knew what the balance was, and they felt that and that was the expression of their art. And that's when the balance was there, and they always appreciated it. It was always something amazing. It was always beautiful. It was always like the Egyptians created the afterlife. Well, the afterlife is us digging them up and seeing it again, and seeing what it is and revealing it. They will live on forever because we are constantly digging up and doing this. And like when I talked to Joan about this last night, I really came out that I said, you know, that kind of makes me feel like maybe after I die, my art is what will live on in this world as to give testimony to what I believe and what teaches people that thing. So that's, you know, that's one of the reasons why I strive to be an artist and to do it, is because that helps me to know that it's going to be carried on, and to teach people that we do have an imbalance right now. The imbalance is that we don't have respect for stones or for rocks or for plants as like we do. And I think a lot of people are starting to see it. I think the things that we do here at Life Force are teaching people that the balance all comes into play with each other when we all can learn, you know, like when Christianity came and some of these cultures, they, you know, the imbalance of male and female was taken off and taken away, and I feel like a lot of that stuff took a lot of stuff away from the balance. And I think that before then, that's why my art seems to reflect Celtic and American Indian and Native American, and Egyptian, and all these cultures that were so balanced and so into the nature. And I mean, like you were saying in your travels, how I don't know the story, but the shamanic stuff that was going on with these tribes that you were going to, and then here are the people that are trying to do something, and here's this shamanic tribe that can tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. And it is like they know, that the indigenous tribes all over the world know that these things are the most important things in life in terms of art, you know, and in what it is. So I think it's nature to me. It's beauty, of course, and I see beauty in all things. I can see beauty in chaos magic or chaos art as well. I mean, there's beauty. I think it's up to the individual inside and the beauty that you feel inside, that you can see everything with those eyes. You know, everything is seen with the eyes of beauty, and can be, when I look at something, I see the raw material. I break it down to elemental because that's what it is to me. You know, I see what it is, and it breaks down to that elemental level where I say, oh, look at that. He made a mirror from stone and a piece of wood, or he carved that club from obsidian and wood, and it made a tool out of it, or, you know, whatever. These things were what, you know, cavemen did. You know, here's a rock, let's make a tool out of it. You know, I mean, this is what we do. So, I mean, I think that getting back to that is its utility. But art is also, to me, it's discipline. It's discipline because it makes you go inward and have that peace and relationship with the world, and it's discipline. So to me, it's like putting yourself into something is your spirit and your soul that goes into this piece is what you believe it is and what people are going to get for it. When I make a piece of jewelry, I don't just go, oh, I think this would be really pretty. No, I'm going, this is for healing, and I think the shape should be this because it facilitates the healing for that. And I think it because it's an Egyptian, it goes with this goddess, and I think if it's going to be Isis, then it should be amethyst, or it should be this. I completely break it down to everything that essence of that thing is to try to portray. That's where you get the spirit from, you know, from really doing that in your art and breaking it down like that. It's meaningful. It really says, well, this is a, you know, this is a bismuth crystal, yes, and it's natural as it is. But if I went to go make something with it, I might really, it's for opening up your psychic centers. I might do something with opals, or I might do something amazing with it because I take the properties of what's in it and what it means and what it says to me and try to make it, try to make someone who doesn't understand what that is, and they see it in the piece and they go, you know, I don't know why, but that's an amazing thing, and I just see it and I go, well, if I told you why, I think you would get it. I think you would know. So there's more to it than you think as an artist putting into something and knowing what elements you're putting in and why and what that expression is. And that's, you know, how I feel about it.
Magic.
Yeah.
It's magic. Yes. I mean, magic basically, you know, is love. And the love and that energy you put into it, that's magic. The love and the kindness and the expression of what that piece is what you're putting into it. That is what people feel. It's not how aesthetically beautiful it is and everything. And I think that's what it is. You know, like I said, I've seen some pretty scary, rough, raw pieces of stuff that come my way, and I went, I'm not touching it. I think it's beautiful just like that. Put a cord on it. You know, and I just had, you know, like a holy stone or a fairy rock, you know, with the hole in it. I'm not going to paint it or touch it or do something funny to it. I think it's beautiful just like that. So, I mean, there's sometimes it's like you guys are saying, it's knowing when to stop, knowing when something is beautiful as it is, the essence of it is beautiful as it is, or can you add to that and make it something else? Can I make that holy stone a fairy necklace by adding these things? So, I mean, you know, you just have to know what that is. And I have studied all this stuff. I've studied with Demetria for many years on Egypt and astrology and the tarot. And the deeper you go into your spiritual path and learning all these different arts and things, the more, like, Keel has a large database for all that stuff, and so does Demetria. As the more that you go into all this, the deeper symbolism and meaning of everything is evident in everything. And it's so much easier to be happy and to enjoy your life when everything has meaning. Everything has that deeper elemental meaning to you. And it's beautiful. And that's what keeps inspiring me to make stuff, you know, because I stopped for a while, and Life Force has helped me to do it. But Joan has taught me a lot that by taking a spiritual path, like going into your journey and your meditation and stuff like that, it's so much easier to create things when you're doing that in your mind. You know, and I always tell the story of, you know, I'm working on a bunch of pieces to put in the case here, and there's a deadline, and I look at it and I'm going, I'm on the couch and I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, if I did this one, I could do that. I am sitting there and my friend will come downstairs and go, I thought you were supposed to be working on jewelry. You know, I go, no, really, I am. I'm really working right now. I'm not sitting on the couch watching TV. I'm really working it right now. You know, and it's like, yeah,
Well,
yeah, right.
the old truism there is that when you're designing, when you're conceptualizing, other people can't see the gears turning in your head.
That's right.
But that is most of the work. Laying the material out and actually executing it is not that much more work. It's coming up with the idea in the first place. I mean, yes, there are things that take a long time, days, weeks, or months, perhaps years if we're talking about monumental pieces. But conceptualizing it, if you don't have that, you just have a big hunk of stone or wood.
My wife and I sit in our living room on our lazy boys. That's where I sit in the car, sitting there on my lazy boy. And one night she's watching TV, and these images are going through my head, and I think she's watching TV. I'm not paying any attention to her, but I'm going like this, you know. And she's watching me. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm visualizing, but I'm seeing this thing, and I'm forming it in my mind, you know." And what are you doing?
Yeah, that's what I get all the time.
Yeah,
You look at me and go,
it's an ancient tradition.
don't tell me you're really working. You're having a drink and you're sitting on the couch and you're laughing and you're listening to meditation music. No, really, I'm
My
working.
cold beer was sitting alongside.
I'm cutting hours off of my day here. Trust me.
Many years ago, one of Steve's roommates, he's made fun of me ever since then. I was given some stones, and I'm playing with them, and I put one up on my head. And then I put it up here, and now every time this guy has seen me for the last 20 years or so, he's like, "Oh, Demetrius going to put some jewels on your head." But that's part of feeling it, you know? How does it feel? And if you wear it, if it's a piece you wear, shouldn't it touch your skin in the place it's going to hit if people are really wearing it?
Keel, that's an example. I mean, he's bought necklaces of mine and said, I'm wearing this in my head.
You turned out the beautiful large amber chunks with citrine beads, the beautiful piece of work, at like half price compared to what you should pay for it, okay? And I put it on my neck in front of the mirror, and Joan and I both said, it doesn't look right. And I put it on my head, and we both said, you look like somebody from the tarot card. And I've been wearing it as a crown since then, but it's perfectly happy.
And like, would you like me to wire it like a crown? No, I like it just like this.
Well, I know, it's really amazing, like in the art class, just in terms of the transformational power that connecting to your spiritual line or your path can have. After, you know, I'd taken a 30-year break from doing any drawing. And after working with the stones and working with these images and feeling their energy, I went back because I had to draw something for the book. So I took a class in portraiture because I figured portraits are so hard that anything else is going to be easy, which was absolutely true. So I get into portrait class, and I never took any real formal training in drawing people. I had mostly concentrated on either landscapes or animals, that sort of thing. And I started drawing in a way I had never drawn before. It was really, I had no idea where it was coming from. So I think there's something in us to keep your eye, your artist's eye, or your artist's ear, sharpened by the way you look at things. I think something inside you, that skill is developing, even though you don't put pencil to paper. Some skill is still developing, still growing. So when I finally, we took a workshop for a full figure class where you do the full nude, and we had a spectacular guy there who was amazing. And so he was up there, and I was doing it in chalk, and I was drawing and putting all the things in there and blah, blah, blah. Now this was a 5-day workshop. By the second day I was done. And the proctor in class came over and said, you know, there's 4 other days. So it's, and on the other hand, in a watercolor, there's just a face. I'll sit for 2 hours looking at this to start listing where the color needs to go, because watercolor is much less forgiving. You can do layers like washes, but it's very delicate work. And when it dries, it's very different from when it's wet. So you really have to know, like chess, 2 or 3 moves ahead of time. You're going to put a color on what it will look like, not what it's going to, what it does. So I'll sit for 2 hours, and then we make like 5 little strokes on there. And it looks 3-dimensional. It looks luminous. So it's I think what Steve and Joan both said about shaping and forming and discipline. It is so much discipline to learn this and to handle the ups and downs, the heights of connecting with something just transformational and then crashing badly when it goes wrong, or you can't get it, or your execution falls so far short of the vision. And the strength it takes to keep continuing in the face of that depression, in the face of that pretty black days creating that book. It was totally beyond me. And I also found that I had to reach out to other cultures because our Western culture has become so cut off from its own roots in the deeper levels that art has become almost, in some cases, irrelevant. So going to these other cultures, where the art was not only functional, but critical to the culture, critical to people, connecting them to the other dimensions, connecting them to nature in a way that can help them live in a matter of literal life and death. If that weather doesn't change, if that drought doesn't break, it's death for the community, not just an inconvenience. So meeting with the Australian Aboriginal community, the ones that are still practicing the old ways, was profound because that culture is continuous for 60,000 years. Egypt is 5,000. Chinese culture, maybe 6 or 7. 60,000 years. So what they've done is create, and their artwork is functional as a map, but it's also connected to the dream lines, the dream time, which is badly misunderstood when it's translated into English. It's as though, oh, it happened then. It's not only then, it's now. It's continuing. So the world is constantly being brought into being. And so it's incredibly flexible. It's why they still survive against incredible pressure in Australia. So just connecting to that, and we only had a few encounters with people. It's very frustrating. So I've been studying and reading books by people who live the Aborigines, so there's a chance they translated the cultural concepts correctly. Just to have that experience of art as a way for you to access other dimensions, but also as a way for you to teach your children the landscape and to teach your children the myths and a way in to their deeper self. Their initiation process, they say that men and women of high degree. What they mean is men and women who have developed themselves equal as human beings and understand how all these dimensions work. So they can do things that are just extraordinary. But unless you know how to ask, or you've given them the respect of at least doing their homework, they won't tell you anything.
Don't blame them.
And they
You don't
should.
deserve to hear it.
They should, because they get so
Because
many,
you're not going to understand it anyway.
well, they had so many people go in as social scientists, and unbelievable what they say about it. But to me, the art, in that sense, has such resonance and so much deeper that it goes back to the Egyptian and the Celtic art, where you could actually draw a diagram on the ground, and then in an altered state, you go into it. And then you go to these other dimensions, you come back, and the risk is real. You might not make it back. So you have to be disciplined and trained to do this. This is not done lightly, nor is it done by uninitiated people. So our experience of art, to me, has always seemed more on the surface, unless you connect to this deeper aspect of it, either through nature, in your own doorway in, or through access to these other cultures that opens up this door inside of you. And my goal for my art is to change our Western culture so that this is again available, where you have the numinous back in the culture and not just simply the mundane, which is what I was worried about.
And you were talking about that last night. You were saying, how come all these other cultures still, like China and all these cultures, they're still in tune with nature. Their religion, their art, their stuff, everything is still, their medicine, everything is still part of nature. And yet the Western culture is not. The one we live in is not.
The problem is Western, and I've seen this in these countries, as Western culture comes in more, what's happening is that young people are no longer studying these older ways. So the line is getting broken.
The comment that I had made was that sometimes people say, oh, when things got more urban and more modern, then we lost this connection to spirit and all these old teachings of nature. And I think it was maybe David Abrams in that book, The Spell of the Sensuous, which is an amazing book that everyone should read that. I think it was him or maybe somebody else that said, but all you have to do is look at Chinese culture to know that you can take all these magical, intuitive, nature-oriented, energetic practices and put them right into an urban culture. They never lost that. Even though they became very urbanized a long time ago. You know what I mean? So just being urban does not mean losing touch with nature or with energy or with spirit. Yeah.
It's not urbanization, it's the cult of materiality. And materialism and the worship of material wealth, or the constant desire, the constant nettling of our consciousness through advertising that's everywhere, constantly stroking those parts of the brain you want, you desire, you must have, you must spend, you must get this. And it is pervasive, and it is worldwide, and it is the cult of material.